After watching the final arc of Andor Season 2 on Disney Plus immediately after it dropped on Tuesday night, I can tell you, with pride and happiness, they stuck the landing. In my last video, I expressed massive concern that this show was capable of sullying its reputation by having a weak or outright bad finale, but my worries were unwarranted in this case because Tony Gilroy and co. did what they needed to do to ensure Andor's place in Star Wars history remains where it's been the entire time since Episode 1 of Season 1 at elite status, at least in my opinion. The way I knew for sure the finale was great was that after it was over, I wanted nothing more in the world than to watch Rogue One right then. But unfortunately for me, it was past midnight, and I have responsibilities in the mornings, so I had to put that off for later. I still need to rewatch that. The final arc in Andor puts so many of its characters into great positions that lead seamlessly into the rest of their stories. And to be fair, it's a lot easier to do that and write the ending of your story perfectly when you have those places already figured out, thanks to media that takes place in the future of the world build. But on the other hand, Tony Gilroy wrote Rogue One, so he's just connecting the dots to his own work. So I'll give him credit for getting it right anyway. What exactly made these episodes of Andor so special? Well, let's go through some examples. I loved how the show gave us shorthand for Cass learning to trust KS2O, all in a 3-minute scene of space dominoes. That's it. 3 dudes sitting around a table, having fun. We skipped all the many weeks where Andor doesn't trust Kay at all and is eventually worn down day by day because we didn't need to see that. Time was at a premium in this show, so Gilroy gave us a small scene with interesting rotating camera movement where it's immediately clear Cassian has 0 reservations about Kay's loyalty and safety. His entire body's relaxed. He shoots no concerned looks towards Kay. He's making jokes at Kay's expense, and everyone's having a good time. This means that later, when Kay is needed to save the day during Clea's rescue, we know he's going to do it. It's film and storytelling shorthand at the master level. Also, I just gotta feel bad for Lonnie. After all his loyal service to the rebellion in a very dangerous position, all he wants is safe passage off-world for himself and his family. And what does he get for saving the galaxy? A probably quick death on a park bench. Luthen really wanted no loose ends there, huh? And if Lonnie said he was done and had blown his cover to get at the information on the Death Star plans, he's of no use to Luthen anymore. Part of me hoped Lonnie and his family would get a happy ending, but deep down I knew he was toast. And while the show doesn't address this ever, think how bad it is for Lonnie's wife and kid right now in the story. Man, Andor gets really dark sometimes. And for Luthen himself to be 4 minutes from safety, only for none other than Dedra Mira to walk into his store for the first time, clearly gloating about having finally ferreted him out. It's excellent acting how Luthen goes from gregarious shopkeeper to angry and sullen rebel spy when Dedra pulls out the old Imperial navigator. At that instant, he knows keeping up pretenses gets him nothing, so he gets a few quips in at Dedra's expense, telling him she may have just met him, but he's known who she is the entire time. He even tells her, now there's a whole galaxy out there to disgust you, after she shows disdain and revulsion for him and his people. Dedra lets this pass because she knows she has him dead to rights, only she doesn't know how true that is. Dedra is an amazing character because she's complicated. On one hand, she's competent and brilliant enough to finally track down her white whale, the Axis, the person she's been chasing for so many years, but one, she's not authorized to be doing any of this. She had this responsibility taken away from her by her boss years ago, and 2, she doesn't prevent her most important suspect from killing himself before letting himself be questioned by her. She should have 100% known this was a possibility and maybe even an eventuality, but she's too proud of what she's accomplished to notice he's turned away from her and, oh, shoot, is he still holding Chekhov's dagger from earlier in the conversation? What a legendary fumble from the ISB's most industrious supervisor. Another sequence I really liked was Clea closing up Luthen's loose end because it was intense and really well done in my opinion. I was worried initially that the explosion she creates would cause all Imperial presence on the floor that Luthen's on to flee the premises immediately, making her job super easy, but it turns out she still had to take out at least 2 guards before getting access to his room. And she uses her unassuming presence, she dresses in a nurse's uniform, and she does this to get a drop on 2 armed enemies. And that was good to see. It's competence both ways. Sure, maybe the guards should have been more wary, but these aren't hardcore imp assassins. They're basically street cops posted on Coruscant. And it was nice getting Clea's backstory with Luthen as well. The mirroring of Marvra finding young Cassian to Luthen finding young Clea was awesome. This made some people wonder if Clea is Cassian's long-lost sister he was searching for in Season 1, but I don't think so. I think any comparable details from their findings are more to highlight their similar journeys in the rebellion than really anything else. It was definitely a touching moment also when Clea had to be the one to pull the plug on her father. The actress who plays Clea, Elizabeth Dulao, has 0 acting credits on TV and movies before this, but she did graduate from a premier drama school in England and was only offered the role after 2 others passed on it. For her first job ever, she held her own against everyone she was paired up with, even the legendary Stellan Skarsgård, who obviously she was working with most often. Even her non-verbal acting was top-notch, in my opinion, whether she was alone in the safe house, slowly fraying due to stress and grief, waiting for someone to rescue her, or just in unspoken communication with Luthen at times throughout the series. I'd like to see her in more TV or movie projects for sure. Clea's rescue was also extremely intense, and I was sure she was going to die after giving Luthen's information to Cassian, because her purpose in the story was over at that point, right? She relays the information necessary for Cassian to do what he needs to do in Rogue One, so why did she get to stick around? But she does, and I was happy to see that. I did enjoy how the writers hand-waved away the thousands or millions of Imperial troopers that should be on Coruscant by having them sent on missions to enforce the fake quarantine they themselves set up to try to catch Clea. So, only 1 squad is sent to the location of the signal they managed to hijack from the remains of the radio system in Luthen's shop, post-acidic destruction. Without Kay there, the entire operation results in the capture of Clea and Cassian, and the news of the Death Star doesn't make it to the rebellion. KS2O might be a funny character a lot of the time, but as we already know from Rogue One, when he's getting down to business, he's all business. His literal murder of that trooper squad in the hallway, down to using the dead body of ISB Supervisor Hirt as a human shield, was terrifying. But it was also gratifying to see his violence visited upon a deeply evil person. And to break the tension, Alan Tudyk's voice work as Kay always works on me. I cleared a path, he deadpans, and then everything's fine again. I've done enough gushing about Kay already, but to complete his journey, I loved his "I'll tell them you kidnapped me" as they're flying into Yavin 4 after an unauthorized trip to rescue Clea. And as an aside, how cool are X-Wings? Ever since I was 6, I've been a huge fan of them, and even just seeing them simply sidle up to Andor's U-Wing to escort them to base is a very fun moment for me. I'll always mourn the loss of Rogue Squadron, the film Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct before it was canceled. But who knows, maybe with the success of Andor, we'll see it one day. Okay, this is already getting fairly long, so let me just highlight a few things I really liked from these last couple of episodes. Every scene with Ben Mendelsohn's Krennic is simply perfect. What single thing would drag me to this forsaken basement? Say it. Say the word. I can't do him justice, but you know what I'm talking about there. And then poor Dedra's response, Death Star? His performance, combined with the writing for his character, makes him simultaneously slimy and malevolent, while also incredibly good at his job. He's hemming it up in this scene, but he's also getting the information he needs from Dedra before tossing her away into a cell forever. On Narkina 5? Is she building the second Death Star? What a ridiculously perfect ending for her. It is pure justice, man. And if you look at it from a certain angle, Dedra's a rebel war hero. Without her kleptomaniacal hoarding of data due to her single-minded, obsessive pursuit of access, Lonnie wouldn't have found anything in her files, and the Death Star would have remained a secret until it was far too late. Quick aside, I only recently learned the actress who plays Dedra, Denise Gough, also does the voice work for Yennefer in The Witcher 3, one of my all-time favorite games. Both characters are pretty much the same Ice Queen with an ambitious core to them. I think it works here too, for sure. To start a scene with Partagaz listening to Nemec's speech was just glorious. The kid's crowning achievement of life, his manifesto, is spreading so widely that the head of the ISB himself is burning with the question of who wrote it. If they knew it was a nobody who was killed in Aldhani years ago, they would never believe it. Partagaz knows it's over, knows the rebellion has spread too far to be stopped, and takes the exit allowed him. The Empire blaming him for the Death Star plan getting out and removing him from his position is an excellent example of how the Empire helped its own collapse by removing a competent leader after a single mistake he could have never seen coming. A more healthy government would allow for such mistakes and enjoy the performance of their most talented operatives for years afterwards. The Empire, too rigid in its ways, simply does not, and it leads to their downfall. Saw Gerrera's insistence he's not on Jedha after saying he knows the rebellion is spying on him is hilarious. What a wonderful character for Forrest Whitaker to play. I'm sure he jumped at the chance to be Saw again after Rogue One, and I hope we see more of him in future Star Wars properties. Cassian's impassioned speech to the Rebel Council in support of Luthen, as flawed as Luthen was, really moved me. I appreciate that he highlighted that he knew Luthen's strengths and his weaknesses, and that was what makes him believe the Death Star is real. I know the show is named after Andor, but while Diego Luna has never been my favorite actor, neither here nor in Narcos Mexico, he holds his own well enough in moments like these, and I appreciate his performance. And finally, we get to the last scene, which surprisingly takes place on Mina Tau, the farming planet from the first arc of Season 3. First, we see BMO! I was so worried about that dude. I was mad at Cassian for abandoning him after rescuing Bix and Will, so I'm happy to see that he's not only alive, but he's made a friend. Incredibly heartwarming. For all of its faults, Star Wars is king at making lovable robot characters. As the camera zoomed out, showing more of the farmland, I saw someone who looked suspiciously like Bix from behind. And wonder of wonders, it was her. Carrying a baby? The wordless scene honestly brought tears to my eyes. Cassian has a child with Bix, a kid he doesn't even know about? It makes even more sense that Bix would leave Cassian when she did. If he knew she was pregnant, he would never leave her side or risk fighting for the rebellion. Hero of the rebellion and single mother Bix. What a scene to end the show on. And as an aside here, Star Wars really likes people having children they don't know about, huh? It happens a lot. So that's pretty much it. I could talk about the show for another hour, but I think we'll wrap it up here. To sum up, there are very few shows I rewatch at all, and Andor has made the list. I sincerely hope Disney sees the reception this show got and commissions other talented writers and directors to make this type of media again. Go ahead. Continue to give us your bombastic space opera Star Wars with the lightsabers and the huge star battles, but please also give us more of this Star Wars for adults, with excellent dialogue, amazing acting performances, and serious themes for us to chew on for years afterwards. Thank you, Tony Gilroy, for showing us all that Star Wars can be like this, and thanks to Disney for giving him the chance to do it. I'm going to go rewatch Rogue One right now. Thanks for watching. And as a programming reminder, I will be making more of these probably once a week. I'm done with Andor for now, and I'll be tackling another TV show or movie next week. Tune in then.